welcome to Talya Full Tilt. I am Talya Ginsburg, and as always, we're gonna get right into it. We waste no time on this show. Anyone who knows me in real life knows that I'm a huge fan of this podcast called, but I was like, no, this podcast, I always listen to myself. No, there's a podcast called Armchair Expert. It's very well known. There's a high likelihood that you've heard of it or you listen to it. But if not, there are two hosts, Monica Padman and Dax Shepard, and every episode they have on a different guest who is an expert in their respective field. And they have like a huge variety. It's very engaging. So they'll have someone who used to work on Wall Street, then a chef, then an NBA player, then like a Harvard psychology professor. It's really great because I listen to a lot of podcasts, and sometimes I'll get like in this little phase where I'll listen to a lot of stand-up comedy podcasts, which can be fun, but sometimes it's like someone who does stand-up comedy talking about doing stand-up comedy with their guest on who also does stand-up comedy. It gets a little repetitive, so it's nice to listen to all these things I normally wouldn't listen to. Like it's definitely taught me a lot and like opened my eyes to a lot of things maybe. Like as an example, if you would have asked me, you know, years ago before I started listening to the show, oh, would you ever listen to someone talk about sports or molecular biology for 2 hours? I would have said absolutely not. But because of the podcast, I have and thoroughly enjoyed it. So it's like a real testament, is that the word? Yes, to the hosts. And it's so, the crazy thing about podcasts, and this one in particular, because that's the one I listen to the most, is I have zero doubt in my mind that I have listened to those two strangers talk more than I've ever talked to any friend in my life. So you really get attached to the shows. But anyway, so in a recent episode, they had a guest on, Gretchen Rubin. She is an author of a number of books, a podcaster, and on the show she talked about this like theory or assessment she created called the 4 Tendencies, which basically is a way of measuring how people meet or greet outer versus, no, that's not it. It's meet or resist. Sorry. Meet or resist outer versus inner expectations. So an example of an outer expectation would be at work, your boss asking you to complete a project, versus an inner expectation could be, I want to go to the gym every day this week, or I want to save $10 on groceries this week. So they're the 4 tendencies: upholder, obliger, rebel, questioner, and they all overlap. But so upholder is someone who greets, meets. It's greets. No, it's meets. It's meets. Sorry, we're being silly. Okay, it's someone who meets both inner and outer expectations. They're gonna get it done. An obliger is someone who meets outer expectations, but when it comes to inner expectations, they resist. So she gave an example that was something like, oh, if they wanna go to the gym, they might wanna sign up for a group class, because having people waiting for you, thinking you're gonna be coming, like holding you accountable, that's gonna get them there. A rebel is someone who resists outer and inner expectations. She gave an example that was something like, oh, if there's like a class Saturday morning, they're not gonna wanna sign up for that because they want the freedom of come Saturday morning when they wake up, they wanna go, well, what do I feel like doing today? They don't wanna be held down by something. And then lastly, questioner is someone who meets inner expectations but resists outer. So if someone asks them, there's an outer expectation, they're gonna question it, they're gonna assess it, and then if they agree with it, they'll comply. She said it was essentially they take outer expectations and make them inner expectations. So yeah, I just thought it was really interesting. It's kind of cool to think to yourself like, oh, where do I fit in? How do I operate? How do the people around me operate? And well, it's interesting because hearing that, I thought for sure questioner would be the most common tendency, because it makes sense that if you have a personal goal, you're gonna get it done. And an outer expectation, if someone asks you to do something, you're gonna go, well, should I? But it turns out obliger is the most common tendency. I can see that like in a work environment, like if a boss asks you to do something, aye, captain, but I just thought that was cool. I don't know, I feel like silly talking about it, because obviously you could just go listen to the episode or go to her website, or, you know, get a more thorough, educated explanation of what I'm reiterating. So yeah, I thought that was super fun. Yes, okay, so I mentioned stand-up comedy. This is so unrelated, but recently I remembered a little anecdote. I love anecdotes, and I wanted to share it. So many years ago, I got into an Uber to go to a stand-up show, and the Uber driver, like middle-aged, he asks me, oh, you're gonna go see a show? And I go, actually, I'm performing. And this guy goes, Oh, that's so brave of you. You know, because women aren't funny. I was like, oh my, well, someone go run and tell Amy Poehler she's got to make some severe career changes. Like, but I didn't say anything because when someone's driving you in their car, your life is in their hands. So I am never less opinionated than when I am in an Uber. But anyway, we arrive at the comedy place and the Uber driver, he hands me a card and he goes, by the way, I do tarot card readings. Flabbergasted. Oh my gosh, the fact that this man said something that misogynistic and then turned around and said, I do tarot card readings, like that, because okay, I know next to nothing about tarot cards, but that is definitely women's territory. Like, men are allowed to trespass, but with a warrant. That is like it's like the equivalent of if a man said, women aren't funny. By the way, I teach Pilates. Like, pick a lane. Are you with us or not? Anyway, just a fun little story I wanted to share. But okay, so last episode, I know that I was talking about some of my favorite conversations I've had on dating apps, and I remembered a real fun one that's related to stand-up. So this guy who I never like messaged back, and nothing ever happened with that, but I was like, that's pretty funny. He said, oh hey, down the road you should do a private stand-up show for me, but with a Bert Kreischer outfit. Pretty funny. If you don't understand that, Google Bert Kreischer doing stand-up. Gotta give it to him. Anyway, fun episode, everyone. Thank you so much. Next week, we've got more fun to come, so make sure you tune in. Thank you, and bye.